The Sinaloa Cartel. A name whispered in fear. A name synonymous with unimaginable wealth, ruthless violence, and the endless flow of narcotics. At the helm of this criminal empire stood Joaquin Guzman Loera, better known to the world as El Chapo, the Short One. This is his story. Born in the mountains of Sinaloa, Mexico, El Chapo's life was a whirlwind of ambition, cunning, and brutality. From humble beginnings, he rose to become one of the most powerful drug lords in history, his empire stretching across continents, his influence seeping into governments and corrupting law enforcement. His legend grew with each daring escape, each successful shipment of cocaine, each rival he eliminated. But like all empires, El Chapo's reign would eventually crumble. This is the story of his meteoric rise, his shocking falls, and his final inevitable demise. Joaquin Guzman Loera, a name lost to history, replaced by the moniker El Chapo. He was born in 1957, a child of poverty in the rugged Sierra Madre Mountains. Life was harsh, opportunities scarce. Survival often meant bending the rules. El Chapo learned this lesson early, dropping out of school to work in the opium poppy fields that blanketed his hometown. By his teens, he had graduated to the drug trade, his ambition burning bright. He started small, a runner, a low-level operator, but his hunger for power was insatiable. He rose through the ranks of the Guadalajara cartel, catching the eye of the bosses with his ruthlessness and business acumen. He was ambitious, intelligent, and utterly ruthless, a deadly combination. The 1980s saw the rise of cocaine, and El Chapo seized the opportunity. He established trafficking routes from Colombia to the United States, flooding the streets with narcotics and amassing a fortune. He was a logistical genius, building tunnels, using airplanes, even submarines to move his product. His power grew with his wealth. He became a legend, feared and revered in equal measure. He was untouchable, his empire seemingly invincible. Politicians, police, and judges were on his payroll, ensuring his freedom and protecting his interests. He had become a phantom, moving in the shadows, always one step ahead of the law. He was the king of the Sinaloa cartel, and his reign had just begun. 1993. El Chapo's luck seemed to run out. A rival cartel put a bounty on his head. He was on the run, seeking refuge in Guatemala. But the long arm of the law finally caught up with him. He was arrested and extradited to Mexico, sentenced to 20 years in a maximum security prison. The world breathed a sigh of relief, believing the reign of El Chapo was over, but they underestimated his ambition, his cunning, and his vast network of corrupt officials. Behind bars, El Chapo continued to run his empire. He bribed guards, ordered hits, and planned his escape. He was a caged lion, biding his time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And that moment would come sooner than anyone expected. Section 5. The King Returns. 8 years into his sentence in 2001, El Chapo pulled off the unthinkable. He escaped from prison reportedly by hiding in a laundry cart, a method so audacious it seemed like fiction. The details remain murky, shrouded in rumor and speculation, with many believing he had inside help. What is certain is that El Chapo was free once more, ready to reclaim his throne and resume his reign. His return sent shockwaves through Mexico and the United States, causing widespread panic and fear. The audacity of his escape, the ease with which he slipped through the cracks, exposed the deep-rooted corruption that had facilitated his rise to power. He was a ghost, a phantom, a constant reminder of the failures of the system, evading capture time and again. The hunt for El Chapo resumed, but he was always one step ahead, disappearing into the mountains, protected by locals who saw him as a Robin Hood figure, a savior of sorts. He was more powerful than ever, his legend growing with each passing day, becoming a mythical figure in the modern world. Section 6. Tunnels and Triumphs. El Chapo's second reign was marked by extreme violence and expansion. Turf wars erupted as he consolidated his power, eliminating rivals and strengthening his grip on trafficking routes. He was a master of logistics, employing innovative methods to move his product across borders. His signature move? Tunnels. Elaborate underground passages equipped with lighting, ventilation, even rail systems. They were a testament to his ingenuity and a symbol of his power. El Chapo could reach anywhere, anytime, unseen and unstoppable. He became a legend, a boogeyman for law enforcement, his name whispered in hushed tones. He was public enemy number one, a multi-billionaire fugitive living a life of luxury while evading capture with impunity. Section 7. A Date with Destiny. February 22, 2014. A day that would be etched in history. El Chapo's luck finally ran out, marking the end of an era. After 13 years on the run, he was captured in a beachfront hotel room in Mazatlan, Mexico, a place he thought was safe. It was a meticulously planned joint operation between Mexican Marines and U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration agents, showcasing international cooperation. The world watched in disbelief as images of a handcuffed El Chapo flashed across screens, a sight many thought they'd never see. His capture was hailed as a major victory in the war on drugs, a moment of triumph for law enforcement. But the celebrations were premature as the story was far from over. El Chapo was far from finished, his mind always working on the next plan. He had escaped once before, and he was already plotting his next move, undeterred by the high security measures. He spent the following year in Altiplano, a maximum security prison outside Mexico City, a place designed to hold Mexico's most dangerous criminals, yet it couldn't contain his ambitions. But El Chapo was not like other criminals. He was a mastermind with unparalleled determination. He was a master of escape, and he had one last trick up his sleeve, ready to defy the odds once more. Section 8. The Short-Lived Freedom. July 11, 2015. El Chapo vanished. He disappeared from his cell in Altiplano, leaving authorities baffled and red-faced. His escape route? Another tunnel, this one, a mile long, leading from his shower stall to a construction site outside the prison walls. The audacity of the escape shocked the world. It was a humiliating blow to the Mexican government, exposing the deep-rooted corruption that permeated the country's institutions. El Chapo was a phantom, a master manipulator, and his escape solidified his legend. The manhunt resumed, this time with renewed vigor. But El Chapo was resourceful, ruthless, and he had a vast network of loyal followers willing to protect him at all costs. The chase was on again. Section 9. Back in chains. Months went by, the world held its breath, wondering where El Chapo would surface next. He remained a ghost, a whisper in the wind, his whereabouts unknown. But his freedom wouldn't last forever. January 8, 2016. El Chapo was recaptured in Los Mochis, Sinaloa, after a fierce gun battle with Mexican Marines. He had been on the run for 6 months, hiding in safe houses, moving constantly, always looking over his shoulder. His luck had finally run out, his reign of terror brought to an end. This time, there would be no escape. He was extradited to the United States, the country he had flooded with drugs for decades, to face justice for his crimes. Section 10. Endgame in New York, 2019. El Chapo's trial began in New York City. It was a media spectacle, the world captivated by the tale of the notorious drug lord. Prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence detailing his crimes, his brutality, his vast criminal enterprise. Witnesses, former associates turned informants, painted a picture of a ruthless leader, a man who wouldn't hesitate to order murders, who ruled with an iron fist, who amassed a fortune built on human suffering. El Chapo, once a phantom, was now on full display, his fate hanging in the balance. The jury found him guilty on all 10 counts, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The final chapter of El Chapo's story had been written. Section 11. The Legacy of El Chapo. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman Loera. A name etched in history. A symbol of the enduring power of the drug trade, a reminder of the human cost of addiction and the far-reaching consequences of his actions. His story, a cautionary tale of ambition, corruption, and the seductive allure of power. It is a narrative that intertwines with the lives of many, from the highest echelons of power to the most vulnerable on the streets. He rose from humble beginnings to become a criminal mastermind, a billionaire fugitive, a legend in his own time. His journey from poverty to immense wealth is both fascinating and terrifying. He evaded justice for years, escaping from maximum security prisons, outsmarting law enforcement, and becoming a symbol of impunity. His escapes were legendary, adding to his mythos. But in the end, El Chapo's empire crumbled, his reign of terror brought to an end. The relentless pursuit by law enforcement finally caught up with him. He spent his final days in a supermax prison, his legend a fading memory. The once feared drug lord now confined to a cell, reflecting on his past. But the war on drugs continues, a never-ending cycle of violence and corruption, a constant reminder that the shadow of El Chapo still looms large. His legacy, a stark reminder of the challenges that remain.